Well, welcome to the Christy Jones Show, where it's all about living your life to the fullest. I'm a life coach, speaker, and business owner in multifamily real estate, and I've had wild success in multifamily housing for over 25 years now. I am so passionate about helping others merge their success and lead a fulfilling life, and I bring it all together right here on this podcast. So join me and let's get started to live your life to the fullest. Well, hello. Welcome back to another amazing week here on the podcast. So glad you are here again. Or if this is your first time, I am really glad to meet you and welcome and come back every week. Every Thursday is when I drop a new episode on the podcast. So here's the thing. First of all, I'm recording this in my office in Carlsbad, California. And behind me, it might look a little different. Oh gosh, last week I decided to get a little creative and put up some wall covering on the wall behind me. So it was a DIY. I obviously don't do a lot of those. A DIY project that very spontaneous. And, I always think I can do anything. That's like my mindset. I think I just naturally go, oh, I can do that. Have you ever done that? I always do that. So I buy the wallpaper, the wall covering, whatever it's called. And, I buy a few tools and then I didn't measure. I just kind of looked and I went, I think if I buy 2 of these, it will cover the space, knowing I could always go back to get more. But, not a lot of prep work on my end. So I go to the store, I buy the product, like I said, a couple tools, and then I get off track for like a week or two. Eventually, I put it up and it turned out pretty good. I mean, I can see a few of my little discrepancies in the corners, in a couple seam areas. Nobody will ever notice. So that's just an example of, just start before you're ready and do your best. And honestly, you will always critique your own work the hardest. I guarantee you, I could have 10 people come over and stare at this wall. They would not even see the things where I know I started to make a mistake and I had to like cut or readjust. They're never going to see it. Like it's that minor, but in my eyes, I see it. So that's just kind of a good metaphor for life, right? We need to not be so hard on ourselves. And when we have those little discrepancies, like the couple right here behind me that I know are there, no one else is going to notice that. They're going to be like, oh my God, it looks so good. So anyways, new backdrop, new wall, and that project is done. And I had enough paper to do it. Can you believe that? I even have some left over. So that was kind of surprising. I was like, wow, I kind of impressed myself on that. Yeah, so there's that. So it looks a little different behind me. And also disregard the hair. This is a podcast, but it's also uploaded onto my YouTube channel. And I think Spotify has the video portion. Hair not looking so good today. You know what? I'm just going to roll with it. I am in the process of getting all my beauty stuff done. Heading to Vegas this weekend. So excited. And it's the UFC 303 is going on. I'm a big MMA fan. I know if you didn't know that, you're hearing that for the first time, people's reaction is always like, what? You what? You like MMA and UFC? I do. I really do. And I had a fighter that I was a fighter. I'm a really big fan of his. And his name's Michael Chandler. And I don't know. I love to watch his training. He's got just this precious wife, 2 kids. I don't know. I'm not going to go all into it because I could talk about it forever. But anyways, I was excited to see the Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor fight. I've been waiting for that. I've been waiting for that to happen. And it finally came about. So my husband and we got tickets. I was so excited. And then literally it would have been like 2 weeks before the match, Conor McGregor shows up injured. Then now they're not fighting. So they picked 2 other fighters to put on the main card. It's fine. It's still going to be a great event, but a little disappointed I don't get to see the fight that I was originally going there for, that I was so pumped about. But it's life. I mean, obviously it affects a lot of other people in a much more deep, impactful way. So I'm just lucky and happy and blessed to be going and be a part of this and just super excited. So hence the hair. I haven't got my hair done yet. So there's that. All right. I'm really excited to talk to you today. I know I say that every week, but I really get excited on this podcast to share tips, tools, and skills that you want to know to live your life to the fullest. That's what this podcast is about, is equipping you to move through your life, living it to the fullest, because we get one go around, my friends. So, don't be wasting time hoping, wishing, waiting for all the things to come together before you're going to enjoy your life. Like, I want you to start enjoying your life to the max right now, regardless of your circumstances. Like, if you don't know my backstory, you need to go read about it. Go to my website, ChristyJones.org. You can get some of the highlights. But like, life has not always, and none of our lives are always just, I hate the word perfect, but it's just not life, right? You have peaks, you have valleys, you have like long stretches of freeway that are just like uneventful, but life's just happening. And then you have a peak and a valley. You have to learn to live your life to the fullest in all those seasons. So, as a coach, as a high performance life coach, that is what I take my clients through to help them. Honestly, it's about managing our brain and our thoughts. Our relationship with our thoughts and emotions is instrumental in how we move through life and how we enjoy life. So today, what I want to dive into with you, I want to give you, actually, this is about I'm going to share some books since we're in summer. And I know a lot of you love to read. You're always looking for, like, I'll get a message. Hey, Christy, do you know of a new book? You got an idea? I needed a summer read, or I'm going to be on a plane. I'm going to be traveling, or I'm going to be at home with the kids, or whatever. I need something to read. And I'm going to share, I've got a couple right here in front of me, but I'm going to talk about a couple other authors that when it comes to yourself, the work that you can do within yourself, the thing that's really going to make a big difference in your life when you work on your self-improvement, and that's going to overflow into every aspect of your life, personally and professionally. You got to do the inner work for that and the self-development. So I'm going to share with you some books that you will want to add to your list for the summer, and I know you're going to enjoy. They've been instrumental in my life, and I'll share with you a little bit about the journey. It's interesting how I kind of came upon each of these books at different phases in my life, and they were all right on time, but I'm just going to dump them all to you right here in this podcast. And so the common thread with the books that I'm going to share with you, the common thread is about our relationship with our thoughts and our emotions. And really, these tools empower you to, you can't, there's so many things in your life that you can't control. We all have that, right? And that can drive you freaking crazy if you let it. You have to get really good at knowing what is out of your control and what can you actually do something about. And I'm telling you, everything that you can do something about has to do right here with you, within you. You have the ability to manage you. You have the ability to manage your thoughts. You have the ability to manage your emotions, to feel your emotions, all the emotions. I'm not saying don't feel the emotions, but you have the ability to become more resilient to the highs and the lows and the long stretches of freeway that you just seem to be on. It seems like, gosh, nothing's changing. I want something to change. Nothing's changing. And, you get in that frustration. So you have so much that you can make a difference in. And, the word control is used a lot. So I'm going to stay with that word, although I hate that word in a lot of ways. Like, we really don't control. I mean, it's our ego talking. And our ego wants to, like, be able to control things. We like predictability. Our brain likes to feel safe. I mean, but at the end of the day, that's the whole like wanting to be able to manage everything and control things in our life, that's just the ego, like rearing up its ugly head, being like, listen to me, listen to me. So we have to find ways to kind of relax and to connect with not the ego side, acknowledging we all have that. We all have that part of of who we are as a human. But we have to really get in touch with that other side, not the ego, the inner self side. It's a softer side. It's an intuitive side. It's a side that leans more into love and not into ways of the ego, control, power, things that the ego needs to feel, needs to have those feelings, right? So we need to identify that. And I think these books that I'm going to share with you really help in that process. And they just shed light on ways that you can have a better relationship with yourself, the ways that you can have a better relationship with your thoughts, and then you'll have a better relationship with the emotions that you feel and that you experience. I talk a lot about the brain, and our brain it's so amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And our thoughts that go on in our brain, sometimes in our subconscious, they're just kind of on autopilot. But the more inner work you do, it's so much easier to like pick up, that story is going on in the back of my brain. I hear that creeping up again. And as you raise your self-awareness or you get more connected to the inner you, you're able to recognize those things much quicker and then decide if it's something that you want to continue thinking or not. So first I want to say, I don't have any of her books here with me. They're upstairs and I did not bring them down to actually show them to you. But Byron Katie is a thought leader and an author that if you haven't come across her work, that is one that I would highly suggest that you start digging into. She has excellent, there's several that I could mention. So just Byron Katie, look it up and you will fall in love with it. First one I'm going to talk on, Wayne Dyer, and his books are upstairs as well. Just Wayne Dyer has a billion books that he wrote in his lifetime. So Wayne Dyer is a thought leader and someone that I was 28 or 29, I was somewhere between 28 and 30 is when I fell upon his books and discovered who he was. I had heard his name before, but I don't think I really dug into any of his work. And so at around 28 to 30, because I know I was just newly married, I came across some of his books. And so Wayne Dyer, I'll put it all in the show notes. And so he was kind of my first introduction into this concept of our connection with, having circumstances and then thoughts about the circumstances. And then our thoughts create our feelings. And then feelings, the connection to then how we act or don't act. And that affects the results we get in our life. He was the first person that I came across and started reading his material that those connections started to happen for me in my mind. And he did such an excellent job of communicating the relationship that we have with our soul and with ourself. There wasn't a book he wrote that I didn't fully benefit from. So Wayne Dyer, if you're looking he's going to be one of my first suggestions for the summer. To dig into his material. I know you're going to just love it. And there's, again, so many to pick from. He has passed away, since I'm trying to think what year. It hasn't been that long. Um, has it been 5 years that he's passed away? He was just a tremendous thought leader for his generation. And I was so fortunate to have been in his presence and gone to a really small, so it was almost like a private workshop, private in that there was maybe 25 of us there. So, I mean, to be when you're working and learning from someone and you're in such a small setting like that, I definitely, it wasn't like I was in a room of 500 people. There was around 25 of us, and I had flown to Fort Lauderdale. So it was right outside of Fort Lauderdale. And it was a year, not quite a year after my dad had passed away. So I want to say this was in early 2014. Um, and I wanted to start writing, and it was a writer's workshop. And so that's why I went, and he was going to be leading it. And so I honestly thought it was just going to be this massive big thing. And when I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, this is amazing. Like, we were in a small room setting. It went on for, I think, 3 days. It was like over a long weekend. And it was phenomenal. It was so good. It was literally it was one of the life-changing experiences to, you know, be in his energy and to hear him speak and teach and share his knowledge. It was really about, in that particular workshop, it was about writing from an authentic place, and really connecting to kind of your soul's work. And so learned so much in that. And then it went on to, other ways to, like, if you wanted to self-publish or, you know, get a ghostwriter, all the things. But the main point of that was how to connect and find your own way of writing and communicating. So I absolutely loved that workshop. And it's honestly kind of the first thing I did when I was starting to go into the online space. Um, it was one of the first things that I can say, now that I think about it, that I did. I was still actively in working in our company in property development. We develop, own, and manage apartment communities. And as you know, if you know, I've been in that industry for like 27, maybe 28 years now. Um, yeah, I know, time flies. So I hadn't quite stepped away from the day-to-day operations at our company at that point, but I was kind of dipping my toes in to what I felt like was next for me. And so that, now that I think about it, that was really the first thing I had done to, kind of venture down this path that I've created and that where I find myself now. And I think my point, that why did I do that? Oh, I was wanting to start a blog. And so it was before I started my first website. Like, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Um, I was just like, okay, I have all this and I want to get it out. And I didn't know it. Do I want to write a book? I don't know. I mean, I wasn't decided on that, but I definitely wanted to learn from Wayne Dyer, and it was absolutely one of the best decisions that I made. So, and also being familiar with his work and having read so many of his books by that point, because like I said, I was 28, 29, and 30 when I started really diving into the teachings and the books from Wayne Dyer. By 2014, I was like, I really admired him and really cherished the work that he did and the things that he taught about. So, anyways, great thought leader. So that was my first suggestion, was Wayne Dyer. If you're looking for something really insightful and something that will really help you dig into some of your own personal growth. The second one, though, here's the next author that came along in my life. And the second author that I'm going to suggest that you take a look at for any of your summer projects and summer reading is Eckhart Tolle. I came across Eckhart Tolle when I was around, 34, 35. So, got familiar with Wayne Dyer and his work, went to that event in 2014. So then I kind of get on my way. Uh, you know, the Wayne Dyer thing kind of jumped forward to 2014. So back when I'm like in 2004, 2005, when I'm around 34, 35, I stumble across Eckhart Tolle and his books and his teachings and his sharing of your relationship with your thoughts and how that transfers into your feelings, and also his concepts on basically how our mind and our thoughts can create more suffering in this world for us, and how to navigate that. So he offers such valuable insight and tools on that. So Eckhart Tolle, I've got one of his books. This was actually, I've had to buy, this is like my third version of it because my first one is mangled because I have so many notes in it. But here is the very first book I came across. It's called A New Earth. And excuse me, A New Earth, Awakening Your Life's Purpose. It is that I think they redid it in the new version, came out in 2016. So that's what this one is. But Eckhart Tolle, he's amazing. And one of the things that I love that he focuses on, and that, excuse me, I gotta get a drink of water. One of the things that I love and what I took away from a lot of his teaching was the power, and this is actually the title, I think, of another book of his, The Power of Now. It's about being present. It's about, think about, a lot of times we've got past, present, and future. And when you kind of self-evaluate and think, okay, if you just broke up your day, how much time in your day do you spend thinking about the past? How much time in your day do you spend thinking about exact present moment? And how much time in your day do you spend on thinking and focusing on the future? That was really, when I was in my mid 30s, that was super powerful for me because I was in this mode of like still healing from some things in my past and thinking I was fine, but realizing that I still spent sometimes thoughts trying to figure things out in the past. Like I needed to understand why on things. And I was still kind of stuck in that space. And then also because I was super ambitious and, just hell bent on, doing everything to create and build a better life. Um, and, my husband's very, ambitious, and we both are very hard chargers, I would say. And so when you have two people that are like mission driven, hard chargers, and have a real team approach to your goals and the vision of what you're trying to create, like it's real easy. And I'll speak for myself. It was real easy for me to spend a lot of time focusing on the future of like what I wanted to create, what I was the goals, all the things, right? That's not happening right now, but I'm working towards that. And so you can end up spending too much time focusing on your thoughts of the future. And what I loved about Eckhart Tolle's work is that it helped me kind of get a better balance in my thought life of focusing on the present moment and focusing on the now. We're always going to have things where we think about something in the past, even yesterday. Yesterday is the past. Or we're thinking about tomorrow. Tomorrow is the future. But truly, if we spend too much time in either one of those camps, either thinking of the past or thinking about the future, what we miss out on is this time right now in front of you, right now, your present moment, the thing that you could actually make a difference in, the thing that you can actually enjoy, the thing that you can actually be a part of is, and that all that we really have is the present moment. And the more time we spend in the actual present moment is the most valuable time that we can spend and the most peaceful time, because there's nothing we can do about the past. You cannot change the past. You can't even go back and like redo something or change something from yesterday, much less 10 years ago. And so when we spend too much time ruminating about the past, or maybe you have great memories of the past. I have great memories as well of my past. And I have things that are really painful in my past. So I think we all get a little bit of a mixed bag of both, right? But if you spend too much time there, even if you're ruminating about the good memories and the things that, you wish were still were, but they're not, that's not productive. Like what that does is it stirs up an unrest and almost like a type of suffering on the inside. An example would be I remember, and I don't know if anyone says this anymore, but I remember hearing like my grandma or even my parents say, that was the good old days. And I think we all have our version of what the good old days were. And generally, it was something, a good time, a good moment in time, or a good group of years, or a time in their life they really enjoyed that was in the past. And it's beautiful to appreciate that and to reminisce and to reflect on that. But sometimes, have you ever met someone and they'll be like, oh, those were the good old days? If only it could be like it used to be. What that does is that what that's doing for that person is creating suffering in the present moment, because you're wishing now was like the past of what you're referring to was the good old days, instead of, yes, that was great, but more importantly, whatever is present moment, that's what you can be enjoying or experiencing right now. So when we spend all our time, thinking about the good old days of whatever that means for you, I mean, you don't want to, it's just not productive to hang out there forever, because it's over, and it was beautiful and you have those amazing memories. But right now, you can find that same beauty and that same pleasure and that same wonderfulness in the present moment if you choose to. This comes down to our thoughts. This comes down to us managing our brains. And something just popped into my head on this, because I can hear someone, it's like I could hear someone hearing me say that going, yeah, right, Christy. I have something really painful's going on right now in my life. And the now, the now sucks. It, I just felt like someone's hearing this and they're thinking that, they're rolling their eyes, right? So an example, what just came to my brain was when my dad was, he had a rare form of a blood cancer. And unfortunately, they didn't think initially it was going to be a big deal, but there was a small percentage of chance, and it's this small percentage of chance that it moves rapidly and aggressively, and there was no cure for it, but they had a way to maintain it. But unfortunately, his ended up being that small percentage that just took off like wildfire. And so his bone marrow stopped making, our bone marrow makes our red blood cells, and his bone marrow stopped doing that. So we ended up in MD Anderson in Houston. And of course, we're still very hopeful. I'm still at that point, and my dad, we believe that there was going to be a solution. We believed that there was going to be healing. Um, I just believed a miracle was going to happen. And so we were still working with the doctors and following their lead on what to do. And he was still communicating and talking and all of that at the time. And so I remember being in the room with him because I was down there all the time. My mom was, we just basically rented an apartment down there, and he was in the hospital all the time, but we alternated on who stayed in the room and who went to the apartment and all of that. So I remember being in the room with him, and my dad is like, I mean, if you, I hope you don't. I hope you know nobody that's ever had a disease or cancer. I strongly hope that you haven't. If you have, you know that cancer is just can be a beast. And that was his experience in this. So it was really at a hard time. Like, he was not feeling well. We were grasping at straws, and it was just a really, he didn't feel well, no doubt. I mean, he's living his life in a hospital room. It was a tough, tough, tough season. It was like, you know, hard, so hard. Like, I can't even talk about it for that long. But something he said while he is in this state that kind of was like, excuse me, it was like a light bulb going off for me, because I couldn't believe that he said this. He was laying in the bed, and I was sitting there, and we're just, listening to music and hanging out. And it was, let's see, it was like August. So there was a lot of football. College football had just started on TV, and, there was some NFL games and preseason stuff. So we're sitting there and we're just watching some football, and we have some music going, and we're talking. And he says to me, he says, I have never been happier in my life. And my dad, like, he's had a great life. He's got a great wife. He had 3 great kids. I mean, my dad was a super optimistic, happy person, but to be in such, like, to be so ill. And hang on. One second. I talk about this often. I don't know why today the emotion showing up. So for him to say that made me go, I was like, wow, like, he is, I mean, things are tough. Situation, we have no answers. We are grasping at straws for life. Um, Working with specialists, trying to find a solution, clearly doesn't feel well. It's like his body's just betraying him. And then he says that. I was like, how can I mean, I was floored. But it told me so much about that. If we can be in the valley, we can be in the thick of it. And we have the ability to decide what we're going to focus on. And when we manage our thoughts, when we consciously choose what we're going to, the thought we're going to have, when we consciously choose that, we have a direct effect on how we feel. Our relationships with our thoughts and feelings is within our control. And you will seek out and find whatever it is that you are wanting. And in that moment, he said, I have never been happier than I am right now. He said, I've got everything I need. And, he went on to talk about his family and his wife, and we shared some stories. But I just thought that was just so difficult in the moment, but yet it was like the biggest lesson ever. One that I took, that I just always kept with me, because in the valleys, It's our opportunity to show up with courage, knowing that we still have fears. Like I did a post on this the other day, like fear is going to creep in, right? We're human, but courage is moving through that to triumph through the fear. Courage is showing up anyways. And so the work of Eckhart Tolle came to mind when my dad said that, because present moment, present moment is where it's at. We can't spend too much time dwelling on the past. We can't spend too much time focusing and talking and thinking about the future. There's got to be a little bit of a balance there. And a big chunk of your time needs to be focusing on the now, the present moment. I promise you, if you do that, the suffering, like a lot of times people will be all upset about something. And I'll be like, is it happening right now? Well, no. I mean, they said it yesterday. It's not happened. I'm still upset about it. But right now, so we go through the present moment, we start listing out everything that's good. I've done this with a client recently. Everything that's good right now, like let's just go present moment. You know, where are you at? Where are you sitting? What you know, what did you just do? You just finished lunch, or what was next? You have an appointment at work next. I mean, we kind of went through that little bubble of time, that person's present moment, and everything is fine. You are safe, you are well fed. And what's causing, in this particular client, what was causing her suffering was her thoughts about yesterday. What was causing her angst was her thoughts about a past event, her thoughts about yesterday. So the more you can stay in present moment, the better off you will be. So Eckhart Tolle, you're going to want to grab his books and dig into them. This is just to show you the thickness, because I really thick books, they're not for me. I love to read, but I got to have I want like a condensed version. Like this is kind of my max on book size. And I hope what I shared about my dad's comments that day in his hospital room, I share that story because it was such a light bulb and a beautiful teaching moment from him to me on finding the peace and the beauty in the present moment, regardless of what the circumstances look like. So all hell can be breaking loose on the outer. It is your thoughts about the circumstance, which you get to choose. You get to choose the thought that you're going to have about it. So it's your thought about it that empowers you. That is in your camp. You get to decide. Based on what thought you choose, that's going to have a direct effect of how you feel. And the thoughts that my dad was having in that moment, that day, even with the harsh reality that his health was deteriorating, his body was betraying him, the doctors couldn't seem to find an answer to slow the progression down. I mean, the clock was just every day, it was like being on a hamster wheel. And it was literally one of the hardest seasons of my family's life. And in that moment, he found a way to choose his thought to where his thought made him feel so grateful and so happy, regardless of the circumstances. I decided then that I want to embody that. I want more of that. I want to be able to have that kind of peace and the ability to choose my thoughts to stay in that peaceful space. And I really believe that God has given us the free will and ability to do that. So Eckhart Tolle, check it out. You're going to love it. Okay, my last recommendation is, have you heard of Michael Singer? Another beautiful thought leader. Untethered Soul. That is the book that I'm going to talk to you about. And so Eckhart Tolle, I was 34, 35. I really think it's interesting how God kind of timed this out for me. So Wayne Dyer, I got onto, his teachings around by the age of 30. So I was 28 to 30, Wayne Dyer. And then 34, 35 comes along. I fall upon the works of Eckhart Tolle. And then go to my early 40s. So it's right after my dad had passed, and I was in grief counseling. My therapist actually turned me on to Michael Singer, and it's a book called The Untethered Soul. So I was around 42, 43. So I love how, sometimes everything happens for a reason in life. And I was basically, I had to be spoon-fed some of these teachings and some of these ideas. Because if I would have gotten all this when I was 28 years old, like, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. Like, there's just, God has a plan. He was like, okay, this will be good for you to learn at this age. And then everything comes at the right time. I truly believe that. So here is Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And again, look at the size of that book. Love that. Such a beautiful book. And this book truly goes into the relationship of your thoughts with your emotions, your relationships with your thoughts and your emotions. Beautiful book. And he also has a journal that you can purchase, which I had the book way before I had the journal. I've only had the journal the last few years, but the journal is really nice, and really has some really good thought-provoking exercises where you can go a little deeper on things. So if you're into journaling, I really think that's a good one to get to. Michael Singer's work is a little bit different than, I would say they each have their own style, their own take on things. But so each perspective is a little bit different. But why I like each of them is because here's the thing: we can read these tools and these teachings, and we can decide, what resonates with you. I really think that each of the authors I talked about, there's something that I've taken away from each of them and from them sharing their experiences. And each one just kind of took me a little step further. And so I have truly, truly enjoyed their books. These are books that I read over and over. These aren't like books I've just read one time. I've gifted these books to many people. And again, these are books that I circle back to for my own use all the time, all the time. I mean, these pages are tabbed and highlighted and all the things. Let me share this with you because I just opened on this, and this is really good. Oh, my little highlighted deal. This is from The Untethered Soul. And this was a book, again, I was really dealing with a lot of grief at the time. And another one of my, I have a couple pastors that I love following, and I read their books as well. I kind of have those on a different list, but T.D. Jakes is one of my all-time favorites. And he is someone else that I leaned on heavily in some of his teachings when I was really needing to bring more of that into my life. So Pastor T.D. Jakes is amazing. All right, but let me read this from Michael Singer's book, because this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It really makes you think. And these are things that, if this resonates with you, these are things you're going to want to like ruminate over and over into your brain until it becomes like second nature. So that he writes, let your spiritual path become the willingness to let whatever happens make it through you. rather than carrying it into the next moment. That doesn't mean you don't deal with what happens. You're very welcome to deal with it. But first, let the energy make it through you. If you don't, you will not actually be dealing with the current event. You'll be dealing with your own blocked feelings and energies of the past. Then you will not be coming from a place of clarity, but from a place of inner resistance and tension. That's why I talk so much about choosing to be in the present moment. And when you are ruminating, as he said, on something from yesterday, from the past, you're only creating the tension and the discourse and the anger or the pissed off feeling or whatever it is right now in your present moment. And a lot of people think that that's a fact, like I have to do that, and it's not. It's a choice. It's a choice. And like he touched on, is that you still deal with the problem or whatever event has come up. But it's your thoughts that you get to have about it. That's what changes your experience. I just have no time in my life for anger and, that pissed off feeling and that regret. Um, I just I just don't have space for that. I've just gotten to a point, and I've been there for quite a while. I got there in my 40s for sure. I just don't have space for it anymore. It's just not productive. It doesn't help me do the work that I've been assigned to do here on this side of heaven. And I just refuse to hold on to thoughts that create, like he said, that tension, that heaviness, that anger. I really believe that everyone does the very best that they can. And I choose to believe that. Um, if someone disappoints me, I just walk away from that. No, I just choose to believe they did the best they can with where they're at or the tools they got right now. And I wish them peace and I move forward. I'm just not gonna, muddle that pot anymore. And I haven't for a really, really long time. And I can tell you that life is so much easier and so much lighter and so much joy-filled because of that. I really trust that everything that happens is never a surprise to God. And I know that and I trust that. And it really allows me to move through my day and my life in a much more peaceful way because I'm not supposed to have all the answers. I'm not supposed to fix all the problems. I used to really be occupied with that, kind of like patching all the holes and, wanting everybody to be okay and fix things. And I just don't operate in that space anymore because it's not my place to do that. And I don't control people. Each one of us get to move through life the way that you choose. And I remember, it was a process to get there because I wanted, you want people to change and you feel like, you kind of know what's best or, don't be upset or whatever. I allow people to be upset now. It is okay. If they want to be upset, I think that that is completely fine. They're needing to move through that. And that's how they're choosing to do that, is being pissed off and upset. And my hope is that they will be able to move through that in hopefully sooner than later. But I don't attach. It's about not attaching to the outcome as much. And I really learned that a lot from Eckhart Tolle, the one that I started reading when I was like 34, 35. Eckhart Tolle, in all of his, in his teachings and when he writes and speaks, really focuses on not attaching to the outcome. And that's probably an entirely whole separate podcast episode because there's a lot to discuss on that. But when you can get to a space in your life, let me just say this. When you can get to a space in your life where you can move through life and not attach to the outcome of something and be okay regardless of what the outcome is. So when I say you don't attach to that outcome, there is space between you and who you are and your inner being and your soul and what the outcome of the situation or the event, maybe something that you're aspiring for, whatever the outcome is, you're able to separate from that. Because if you get too intertwined in attaching to the outcome, right? Frustration, tension, all the things. So I really have had a much better way of like moving through my life, experiencing joy. When I talk about living life to the fullest, it's because I'm not attaching to the outcomes of all the things that I might be a part of, right? I might be working on a project. I might be involved in this something else over here. And you're still doing your best. You're doing, the things that you think need to be done. You're not just sitting idle. I'm not talking about that. But whatever the outcome ends up being, I always know that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. It may not look like it's fine. Sometimes it may not feel fine, but I really trust that when it comes to things like that, I really release so much to the higher power and to God, like he has it figured out. And if there's something I'm not seeing, and then I'm going to learn like through the process, then I'm game for it. I'm here to learn it. But I'm not going to spend time dwelling and being all like tied up in a knot, because that's going to pull away from the present moment of the life that I can be doing and living and experiencing right now. So this is a must read. I mean, this is a must read for sure. And you can follow him on Instagram. I mean, he's got some social channels and things like that, but the books are just so valuable. So I hope this has given you a few ideas if you're wanting to focus on some personal development, some personal growth, delve a little more into, because you hear me talk about it a lot, our connections from circumstance, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. Those are some great, great authors to go pick up their book and read it over the summer. Read two. I can't say that I'm like an avid reader. I don't read fast, but I love reading. But I also am not a person that's going to sit down and read something cover to cover. Like I know people that will sit down and read a book like in a day or two, and that's not me. That is definitely not me. I read it in little chunks and I get overwhelmed with super like massive novel. I don't even go there. I just don't. I love audiobooks too. All of these are on audiobook too, if you like to do that. I usually do both because I like to have my book where I highlight things, and then I have the audio version because sometimes there's obviously travel is great to listen to an audiobook and things like that. So there is something for everyone out there. And that's so cool that we get to live in a time like that. I think it's so cool. All right, my friend, I hope this has given you something to read for the summer, some more insight into how you can directly affect how you're moving through your life, live it to the fullest based on your thoughts. If you want to work with me more, just drop me an email. It's in the show notes. or go to my website, christyjones.org. I work with my clients on this all the time because the answers are within you. The solutions are within you. Your path to build the life that you desire is with you, in front of you, and you just have to unlock. You just have to unlock the door. So I would love to work with you if this is something that you're wanting to dive into. In the Flourishing Edge, it's all the things. It's all the things. I got 5 different foundations in the Flourishing Edge on how to build the life that you truly desire. And I take clients through those 5 foundations, and then we lock arms. And if it's, I've got programs or packages available where we can work together for not just the one session. If you're just like, maybe it's just in your budget to do the one session, then you want to do the Flourishing Edge, that one package that's on my website. And that's great if you want to get clarity, or you have like 1 or 2 things that we're going to like dive into in the 90-minute session. And there's a ton of other things loaded in that particular package of the Flourishing Edge. Otherwise, if you really want on high performance coaching, it's really something that takes, we've got to partner up and we've got to like get a plan and meet on a consistent basis. And I have options for that too. And I have clients that choose to do the longer program. So we're really making some headway on the things that you're wanting to do and create and experience in your life. So I would love to talk to you more about that. You can just find it all in the show notes and reach out to me. All right, go make the rest of your day fabulous. And I'm going to have a great time in Vegas. I'm going to just go to UFC 303 and have a ball. And the next time I'm on the podcast here recording, I can't wait to tell you all about it. All right, go have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next week. I want to thank you for tuning in today to the podcast. And I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and all the info that's been shared today. And I hope you've come away with a few ideas on how to make the most out of it for your life. If you loved this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family. And also make sure you subscribe to the podcast and tap that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Also, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would leave a podcast review. So until next time, my friend, keep flourishing and thriving and live your life to the